Much love and respect. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. The times you have been tuning in is very much appreciated. Thank you. Do me the favor, if you could, go over to YouTube and press subscribe. I really appreciate that. Yep. So, welcome back to D.A.P. My name is David Adams, and this is episode 3 of the Focus on You series. Today, we are going to be talking about something that sounds simple, but it's one of those hardest things to do. It's definitely one of the hardest things to do. And saying, which is basically saying no. And explaining the no. You know what I mean? That's not really good. All right. So now I know already that a lot of y'all, some of y'all listening right now, y'all struggle with that. And y'all struggle with that real heavy. You feel guilty every time you turn around or every time you turn somebody down. You don't want to seem like you're mean. You don't want to disappoint the person. You don't want to look selfish. So what do? You say yes. Yeah, all the time. And when you're tired, you say yes. When you broke, you say yes. When you don't even want to be there. And at the end of the day, you end up drained, mad, feeling like people taking advantage of you. Yeah. But let me tell you something. Real talk. Every time you say yes to somebody or something that you don't really serve you. Every time you do that, you are saying no to yourself. And that's a fact. And that's too expensive. Why? A lot of us struggle with no. You know what I mean? Let's break it down for a minute. Let me break this down real quick. So, why is it so hard to say no? Most of us, we were basically raised, to be people pleasers. We were taught, don't be rude, don't let people down, always help people out, you know what I mean? And while those things and lessons sounds good that we learned, they can backfire when we grow up and as we get older and we become adults. Because now you end up carrying everybody's weight on your shoulders while nobody carrying yours. And deep down, you're saying yes because you really don't, you're saying yes, you don't want to hurt nobody, basically. You know what I mean? You're scared. You're scared of what they'll think. You're scared of they might leave you, or you're scared they'll talk about you. But here's the thing, man. And here's the truth. Your peace is more valuable than their opinion. Your energy is more valuable than their approval. And if somebody only rocks with you when you say yes, then they never really rock with you in the first place. And that's a fact. So you got to be careful with them, always saying yes, those yeses. Yes, I do it. Listen, family. No is a complete sentence. It don't need a comma. It don't need a paragraph. After you say no, that's it. It don't need a story behind it. When you say no with confidence, you telling the world, my time matters. My peace matters. My energy matters. And trust me, people might not like it at first. Yeah, they might not like it. Especially when you've been used to saying yes all the time. But the ones who respect you will respect your no. Real talk. And the ones who get mad, those are the ones who only wanted what they could take away from you. They wanted to always take from you anyway. They're going to be mad. That's a fact. So let's talk about some small no's. These are the everyday ones, you know what I mean? They seem little, but they add up. Scenario 1. You know the invite you don't want to take? Your friend hits you like, yo, what's good? Come out tonight. You coming out? Let's hit the club. Yeah, let's hit the club. Let's, do this, let's do that. You tired. You got work in the morning. But you don't want to seem lame. You don't want to seem like a party pooper. So you say yes. And then you end up miserable all night. That moment to practice a small no, just say it. That's the time right there. Nah, I'm good. I'm going to sit this one out. You don't got to give 5-minute speech about why. You know what I mean? Real talk. Try it. Scenario 2, the borrower. The one that's always trying to borrow some money or something. Somebody at work at, always, you work with them. You know what I mean? They're always trying to borrow something. Can I borrow this? I need a few dollars. I need something for lunch or whatever. You don't really want to say no, but you end up saying yes, but you scared. They'll think you stingy. That's a small no moment right there. Use that. It's a simple, nah, I can't do that today. Period. Scenario 3. The phone call. You calling, finally got some quiet time. You chilling. Somebody call you. You know what I mean? You just chilling. Your phone ring. You see that name pop up. And you know this person about to drain the hell out of you. About 1 hour. A 1 hour rent. You know that person. You don't have time to pick up. That's a small no right there. Protect your peace, man. Real talk. And here are a few big no's. All right? These are some big no's. Now, the ones that really test you, these are the big no's. 1, the family pressure. Maybe your family expects you to always come through financially, emotionally, whatever. And even when you can't, you scratch. You know what I mean? You kind of like stretch it, basically. You know what I mean? You stretch it because you don't want to be labeled the bad one. You know, that's a big no moment. Sometimes you got to say, I can't help you. I can't help you with that one. Not right now. No guilt. No guilt. So here's another scenario of a big no. Number 2, toxic relationships. Somebody wants to get back into your life. You know what I mean? After they've already, shown they don't really care about you. You know, they're about chaos. They're about lies, disrespect. They begging for another chance. Big no. That's a big no. It's standing firm. No, I can't go back to that. I got to protect my peace. That no might hurt, but it saves you. Here's scenario 3 of a big no. Work, business, your boss keeps, piling up tasks on you, you know what I mean? Putting things that you got to do, doing at work. If it's, stuff that 3 people got to do, he putting it on you or she putting it on you. Putting it all on your back. You got to pay more attention. That's a big no moment, you know what I mean? Don't have to burn yourself out. You don't got to burn bridges either, but you do have limits. Sometimes you just can't take it, you know what I mean? So that's a big no right there. Sometimes you just got to, brush that to the side and say, I can't do it. Now, listen. Here in these, out in this world, man, you can't really, you got to make sure you have boundaries with people, because if you don't, it's a wrap. They'll use you until you're empty. And once you drain, they'll move on to the next person. Once you drained out, they're going right to the next person without even checking if you're good. You're not even checking if you're okay. Real talk. That's why learning to say no ain't about being cold. It's about survival. It's all about survival. It's about growth. It's about protecting the version of you that you still becoming. You're trying to become that great person. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, nobody going to protect your peace but you. And that's a fact. Yep. So here's some tips. Here's some quick ways that you can practice your no. Like I said, start with the little no's and then go, with the bigger no's. Keep it short. Don't over explain. No, I can't do that right now. Done. That's it. Start small. You know what I mean? Decline the little things first. And like I said, you'll build your confidence. But stand firm. Once you say no, don't backpedal on that. Do not backpedal. Replace the guilt with respect. You know what I mean? You're not being mean. You're showing yourself respect. Real talk. Remember, every no creates space for a yes that actually matters. I'm going to say that again. Every no creates a space for a yes that actually matters. So here's a challenge for the week. I'm going to challenge myself and I'm going to challenge you. This week, here's your challenge. Say one small no and one big no. It could be telling a friend, you're not going out. I'm good. And also, you might be telling a family member, maybe a coworker. You can't take it, you know what I mean? You can't take on some of the things that you're trying to drain me with, you can't take it on. You know what I mean? If you know what drains you, you know what I mean? You might say both, you might say no to both of those little things. But pay attention to how you feel. Just pay attention to how free you are. After you say the no, that's where the growth starts. So, family, hear me out clear. If you don't learn to say no, you're definitely going to lose yourself trying to please everybody. You're going to lose yourself. Protect your time. Protect your energy. Protect your peace. And stop explaining your no. This episode 3 of the Focus on You series. Say no without explaining yourself. Next time we're going to talk about how to block out the noise. Build the real you. That one going to be off the hook. That's going to be a little powerful. Oh yeah. I'm your host, David Adams, and this is D.A.P. Stay grounded. And remember, sometimes the strongest word you can say in your vocabulary is no. Peace out. Much love and respect.